Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We're about to do a repeat of the meeting that was held on March 7th for the elementary and middle school assessment coordinators, and going over all the new material and things that are coming up in the very near future. So let's begin by taking a look at our PowerPoint, and we'll dive right in to that. So again, the reason why we meet is so that we can share ideas and work better together. If we have questions, the chat feature I'll be monitoring, but may not be really on top of it. So please just don't hesitate to send me an email as well as a chat. So the agenda for today is we're going to take a look at the Wisconsin Forward Test, which is our main topic for today. We'll be looking at eDirect software, how to get a progress report, how to do tickets. We'll take a look at how students can practice and some of the videos, any changes that have taken place in the last few months, and then briefly touch on security. We'll then spend a little bit of time talking about the spring MAP assessment, which will be coming up in late April, early May. And then finally, for those who are in elementary schools, we'll be talking about also the window for PALS. And then, of course, if you have any questions, let us know. So, a couple things that we want to point out as we begin. First of all, Session 1 of English Language Arts in the Wisconsin Forward exam this year, Session 1 is called Text-Dependent Analysis. You may call it what you want, but it's a long write question, a couple questions. So students will have something that they read, and then they respond to several questions. The expectation is that this will be the first assessment. The earlier in the day, the better. So when students are freshest, you can get them rolling on this particular assessment. You do not, it's not a requirement that this is the very first session, but it's just recommended. And DPI would like their best efforts on this particular one. We'll take a look at the assessment website. There are samples and rubrics for the text-dependent analysis. I am absolutely certain that these kinds of things are going on in classrooms across the district. It just may not be called the same thing. So while they call it DPI and the Data Recognition Corporation, the forward exam vendor, while they call it a text-dependent analysis, we may call it other things. Also, please note that with your tickets, you should have received test administration manuals. There are 5 copies, I believe. If you need more, they are available on the assessment website, on the forward exam coordinator information page. You were also emailed a version of that which removed everything except the teacher script. So just to make it so that you're not printing 50 pages for 10 teachers, to save a little bit on paper, we pulled it apart, and there is a test administration script that you can use to help staff members. Certainly feel free to share the administration manual, the entire piece, with them if that's what they're asking for, but just know that it is not a requirement. Also, we'll spend a little bit of time on the online tool training. That has been updated so that it has the most current tools available. There's also sample questions that students may, or teachers may, both, families may want to take a look at. So we'll review some of that material as well. Once again, I'm going to say this a couple of times, but please keep in mind that if you receive an opt-out, it needs to be in a written format, whether that's a note or an email. Either way, if it's a handwritten note or some sort of thing, please scan it, make a copy of it, and email it to Sarah Wallner or myself. It's important that we get those and we keep track of that as part of our keeping tabs on participation and reasons why students are not participating. So that, again, is something that we've been doing for several years. Just a reminder, I know that pretty soon things are, if they're not already intense, that tends to, it could be forgotten. Okay, so the student login this year, again, we're working with Chromebooks, and there's an additional step that we will see this year. So in the upper left, you'll see a screen that students will get, and it will have on it 3 choices: WIDA, which is the access and the WIDA screener; Las Links, which is another Spanish language assessment; and Wisconsin. Please make sure that students are including the Wisconsin component, and that's where the forward test will be. So let me just see if I can clear all that. Now, as far as the, oh, excuse me, sorry, just had to switch back to the mouse. As far as what happens when they click on the Wisconsin piece, they should see something similar to this. They will see test sign in under the Wisconsin Forward exam. You'll notice that this page is also pretty familiar. You will see online tools training, item samplers, and then the assessment tutorials. So it should be a pretty common, it should be a pretty familiar page that they actually see. You'll also, so you click on the test sign in. So again, Chromebooks, lower left-hand corner, the app will be the DRC Insight Online Testing. This page will show up. Click on Wisconsin, takes you to test sign in. And once you've clicked on that, it will allow you to take the, put in your password and username. So we have a sample ticket here. You should have received tickets. Please note on the ticket that it is, Sarah ran color copies based on which session or which test it was, so the content area. So you'll see the English Language Arts, session 1. It's the same ticket for each of the 4 sessions. So don't throw away the ticket for session 1 just because you're moving to session 2. You got 1 copy of the tickets. Also included in this are the student name, their local ID, which test they're on, and then the username and password. Finally, down below here, you'll see the abbreviation of accommodations. They will need to sign in using their username that's given here, as well as their password. So let's just kind of click out of this, and we'll take a look at a couple of different things. We are going to go, let's take a look at, we're going to go online. We're going to look at the our website. And here is where we can go in and do a couple of different things. So I'm going to go to the Wisconsin Forward exam. This happens to be under the elementary. It could be under the middle school. This is the family side. On this side, you'll find the information about the exam, family information from DPI, the family letters that have been sent, and my apologies, we still do not have the Hmong version of the letter. We do have one in Arabic. This is what comes afterwards. On the left-hand side, you'll see supports and accommodations, but here's where I want to go. Practice and preview information. So let's sign in to this particular site, and I'm going to just open that in a new tab. Get logged in with here, and so here's where you can see online tools training, item samplers, and the tutorials. Notice this is missing the test sign-in. That only comes through the app. So I'm going to pick on a 4th grade mathematics. Actually, let's go to ELA. And I'm just going to click on the online tools training portion. So you can look at different versions of this and notice that the username and password is up here. So I'm just going to use that very quickly or slowly, whichever the case may be. All right, this is very similar to what students will see when they start logging in. So they will end up saying, welcome, Tim. Here's the session name, the test name, the session 1, whatever it'll say. My local ID and any accommodations. I'm going to click to continue. If you've not done forward, please keep this following in mind. At this point, it is student choice. So for instance, we see that there is a, hang on just a second, sorry. I want to go back to, sorry, I was going to annotate this. We see that there are 4 sessions, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Students can click on any one of them, so please be explicit about which one it is that you would like them to do. We also know that students will do whatever happens, and so they may end up doing, if your intention is for them to do session 1, because the ticket will cover any of the sessions, and if they start session 2, a couple things. 2 minutes and 2 question marks, 2 questions. I can, if they catch it within 2 minutes and 2 or fewer questions have been looked at, you can get out of the test. I can unlock it. We can come back to it later, and it's no big deal. However, if it goes longer than this, for instance, if you as a class are doing session 3, and you go and the student clicks on session 4, please don't panic. Want to make sure that you are willing and able to just go with it. So if the student actually begins by clicking on session 4 instead of 3, let them go. Let them do that, especially if it gets longer than 2 minutes and 2 questions. If you go halfway through the test and you click on, you say, oh, I'm in the wrong one, and then you get out, you submit the test, I cannot unlock it. So again, 2 minutes on a session, 2 questions at the most. If you back out of it, then we can, or if they submit it, then I can unlock it. So don't panic. Let them finish the test. And so they may be out of order, but that's one of the problems, or one of the challenges that we have when students get to pick their own, basically pick their own test game. So they can pick on a session. So I'm going to pick on, we're going to pick on text-dependent analysis, writing. This is the screens that students will see. I'm going to quick check the chat room. I think I'm going to quick. Now I did it. Sorry about that. I am going to go back here, share out the screen. Let me just get through this first of all. So students will see multiple screens. In fact, I believe there are 8 different screens as far as the direction is concerned, directions. And if you are doing stacked translations, you will have the first screen in Spanish, the same screen then in English. So you will have up to 16 screens, which can get pretty long if you are actually following through and reading each one of these pages. Here's what I would recommend. I highly recommend that you go through these directions the first 1 or 2 times that the student is testing. So the first session, the second session. After that, however, if you want to speed up that process a little bit, I have no problem with that. But keep in mind that they have to click through all of these pages before they can actually begin the test. So I'm going to begin the test. And this is what the text-dependent analysis will look like. It will have multiple pages. You'll notice that this says down here 1 out of 4, so there will be 4 pages. This is a 4th grade text-dependent analysis. Over here on the right-hand side, you will see that they are instructed in some things that they will need to do. Use evidence from both passages to support your response. So there are tools that are available at the top. Students can, if you use things like highlighters in your classroom, you can certainly do that here. Then you can also clear the highlighting from it. Students should be familiar with that. You can add a sticky note. So I'm going to add a sticky note to this text, and then I can move on. So I can hide the sticky notes and then come back to them later. There is a magnifier, so I'm going to magnify this 1.5 times. Please note that in any magnification situation, students will need to use the scroll bars on both sides to move around on the page because it becomes so large. To turn it off, I just simply turn it off. The line guide allows them to move as if they had their finger moving across the page, so it keeps them reading correctly across from left to right, right to left, whichever way. So you'll see that these are available here on as tools for every student. Now, if I don't finish a question, or if I want to come back to this, then I can flag the question. I can also pause the test. Now, this is important because here are where mistakes begin to happen and people get to panic. So let's, number one, remember, don't panic. If I want to pause the test, I'm going to do that. I have 20 minutes, so I can take a break. If I need to use the restroom, if I need to go grab a snack, if I need to just stretch, I can do that. Pausing the test, you have 20 minutes. If I want to go back to the test, then I can hit resume. Takes me right back there. Let's say that I'm going to pause the test, and you know what? It's actually lunchtime. So here's what I would suggest you do. On the question, whenever the students have, if you're taking a break, you're going to stop. It's the end of the period. We had 45 minutes for testing. It took longer. You're going to pause and then exit. And this will allow you to exit the test, but you are not submitting it. It just means I'm going to stop for right now. So yes, exit. I'm going to return to the test because I want to show you how you log out when you're done with the test. So pause, exit will get you to come back later, and we'll pick up with the same question that you were on prior to logging out. At the end of every test, I'm going to click here right now because of the test session I chose. There's only one question, but what I see is, did I answer the question? So here at the bottom, it says I answered it. There's a check mark. Unanswered is blank. It's flagged because I wanted to come back to that. To go to the question now, because I flagged it, I can just click on the question and it takes me right back there. I'm also going to unflag this. And again, I'm just going to type something in. So I'm going to assume then that I did answer the question. You'll notice that the question now has a checkbox in it. There's only one question. I'm done. So when you're done, you've answered all the questions, you'll see two buttons at the bottom of the page. One is return to questions. It'll take you back, or end test. Clicking on that, this says submit. So please keep in mind that if you are actually wanting to pause the test, you want to come back to it, you pause and exit. When you're all done with the test, you're turning it in, so to speak, you will stop and submit. All right, so I'm done. I've submitted my test. So keep in mind that there are differences there, and we want to make sure that students don't panic, that staff don't panic, etc. If you go longer than 2 minutes, again, and say, oops, I forgot, or I was going to pause and exit, I submitted, it's going to be pretty difficult to convince DPI that you need to be allowed back in. You need to email me if that happens, or call, and I need to know the reason why a student submitted their test without finishing it, and then we'll see what happens. 2 minutes, 2 questions, I can make that decision. More than that, it has to be an appeal to DPI. So let's kind of go back. So that's the sample. You can use that. I'm going to, let's go back, and you can use this online tools training to help students try out the tools. The item samplers, similar kind of thing. I'm going to this time go to 7th grade, ELA. So you can see how this would look with the stack translation. And so I'm going to just once again quickly go in here, ELA 7 Spanish, and then the password, test 1234. We'll sign in. Notice that same process. Okay, I'm going to click on the writing language, session 1. Here we go. Spanish, English, Spanish, English, continues to go, and you have to go through. So please keep in mind that those students who have Spanish stack translations may require extra time at the beginning to be able to go through and get to the test. So here is stack translation in theory. I haven't been through this. So this will give you information about this particular question. Let me see if we get the stack translation here. No, I apologize that this does not have the stack translation in it, even though it did say that at the beginning. Anyways, we will continue and move on here. So pause, exit, end, submit. So we're going to end the test, submit. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint and we'll continue. All right, here we go. So you can practice with the student. You should have all the tickets. Keep in mind that the tickets are secure test material, that they are considered to be the same as a printed test booklet. So keep tabs on them. All right, we've been through a lot of this, so I'll just kind of skip over some of this. So students, again, will be selecting the test session. And again, you can follow this through with the teacher script that we sent out to everyone. The practice tools, again, I would suggest that especially for third graders or students who are new to the state who've never seen this, you may want to show them there are some fairly short videos that will take them through what the test is like, or have them practice on this. I don't recommend practicing for hours and hours, but give them some sample. I would hate for them to have their first experience on the test actually on the test. So I'm encouraging you to, especially for our younger students, to have them to try this. Most students should be pretty familiar or reasonably comfortable with online testing, as MAP and other assessments are all moving that direction. All right, picking up where I think things have already begun. So you should have your tickets in hand. There are 8 tickets to a page. Again, students use the same ticket in each of the sessions for a content area. If you have tickets that or are missing, a student is moved in, moved out, please either email or call us at either Sarah or myself so that we can help support you in getting things taken care of. When we add a ticket, when we tell you that a student is now ready for them to print tickets, we will expect that you will be able to print tickets. I'll show you where to get that information. Oftentimes we'll send a link with that. When we're done, when you're done, you're completely convinced that you're done with ELA, for instance, and you've got a lot of tickets, please feel free to shred them. Don't just throw them in the trash. They do need to be shredded. So again, secure test material. Testing will be, with rare exception, on Chromebooks. It's the app in the lower left-hand corner, and it's very similar to Access. So if you've done Access testing before, you should be set. Headphones are required for the listening session. You may want to have the headphones available as noise reduction for some students. Can students bring their own earbuds? Great question. Yes, they can. If you are now going through and taking a look and saying, oh, guess what? We're short of headphones. You remember that, maybe you don't, but back in the day, 4 years ago, when we did the Badger exam, I purchased headsets and headphones for all schools. And at the time, I said, this is a one-time deal. I can't afford to buy everybody replacement headphones as they get broken. However, we have found a new headphone. It's a KOSS brand, K-O-S-S, working with our vendor, who is likely going to have the cheapest price on them. They are headphones, so they'll not only have the listening, but also the speaking ability, microphone built in. They will replace them for free. So if they get broken, we can have them replaced. And the way it's being set up right, or the way I've got it set up, you can send me your broken KOSS headphones, not the blue or the gray ones, but the broken KOSS headphones, and I will send replacements to you immediately. I then send them through our vendor to KOSS, and I'll get a replacement to replenish my supply. So it works out pretty nice, but you have to buy the headphones in the first place. All right, let's take a look at eDirect. Now, each one of you should have already gotten access to eDirect, the online portion of DRC and the forward exam. So I'm going to go and we're going to take a look at another component. So let's log into here. The DRC portal looks like this. It's amazingly similar to the Access for ELLs. Please keep in mind that Access says WIDA AMS. This one says Wisconsin in the upper left-hand corner. So please, if you're looking for that, you will need to find that. So I'm going to log in right now. And password. Let's see if I got that correct. There we go. Now, all the applications, all the information that you would want are over here on the application, the light blue application menu. So let's go through two different things. We'll take a look at how to print tickets. So when you have a student that is in need of, for whatever reason, had a new ticket, they ate it, whatever, let's take a look at that first, and then we'll go back and look at how you can monitor how you're progressing in the test. To print tickets, you go to Test Management. Clicking on Test Management should pull up a menu. We'll see how this works today. Test Management, Manage Test Sessions. So I'm going to click on that, and now I have my filters. What I need to do is I need to find the sessions that I want to look for, student tickets. So I'm going to first of all click on Test Administration. So what is this test? Our choices are Forward Exam Spring 2016 and Forward Exam Spring 2018. I have no idea what happened to 2017, but we're going to choose 2018. District is here. We're going to, we'll pick on our friends at Alice, thank you very much. And we'll say, let's take a look at Alice. I want to show all the test sessions. So if you scroll down, you begin to see, here are the sessions. We have grade 3 ELA, 4, and 5 ELA. Grade 3 math, 4 math, 5 math, 4 science, 4 social studies. I need a ticket for grade 3 ELA. Over here on the actions bars, I have a lot of different things you can do. The fourth one over says Edit, Print, Ticket Status. So I'm going to click on that. What that will do is we'll pull up the details of this particular session and will allow me to look at the students that are in this session. And of course, we need to patiently wait. And we need to patiently wait. There we go. Thank you. Whew. So you'll see all the students listed here, and there are 76 students in this particular group in third grade at Alice. Doesn't matter which session we're on. You can change it to whichever ELA portion you want. I'm going to, let's say we need to find, we're going to print Matthew Anderson's new ticket. Please note, on this page, we also have Matthew Anderson's username and password. So if you're looking for a quick fix, you can just simply say, oh, there it is, and go. I'm going to select Matthew Anderson, and at the bottom of this, print selected. So I can print 3, 4, 5 students. I can click on all of the names, print all. I'm going to just print that selected one. And remember that tickets will always come in pages of 3. So page 1, as you see on your screen, will be an explanatory page. So it just takes you through the materials prior to testing, time of testing, after the testing. Page 2 is a roster. So here is a look at a small roster that just has Matthew on it, his username and password, and if there are any accommodations, it will list them there. So this is a quick way of double checking your accommodations as well. Every one of you received a roster like this for each of the content areas, for each of the grade levels, with your packet of tickets. Finally, here is the ticket for Matthew Anderson. Print that out, cut it, don't cut it, whatever, and Matthew has his new ticket. So this is the way you can go in and find a single student or a group of students and print their tickets. I'm going to close out of that, and we'll see if there are anything else that we're going to do here. I think we're fine with the test sessions. Let's take a look at a couple other things. On the student management side, I just want you to be aware that this is something that Sarah and I work with a lot, but keep in mind that we must have a reason for students not testing. We can't just simply say they didn't feel well, or we missed them, or we forgot. So again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to find my student, last name Anderson, found it, Matthew. I'm going to click on the action. I want to just show you, make sure you're aware of why we need to keep track of especially opt-outs. So this will call up the information from the student. So it'll give me a lot of information. I'm going to go into testing codes. So here is where we must tell the state the reasons why students have not tested. Grade 3 ELA. Here are the choices: opt-outs, significant medical emergency, recent trauma. We all know that things happen. And so if there is a trauma in a student's life and they're not able to test, please remember that that is an option. Invalidated, absent for the entire window, not just when we feel that we're able to test them, but also for the entire window. If they've changed schools, if they're a recently arrived ELL, other reasons, I don't know what other is, and if they're expected to take alternative assessments. Let me stop here for a moment and take just briefly review recently arrived English language learners. Students who are recently arrived English language learners have the ability to be exempted from the English language arts portion of the test only. Only from the ELA portion of the test. You get one exemption in your entire student career. Here are the conditions. They must meet both conditions. Number one, they must have been in the United States for less than 12 months. It does not have to be consecutive. If, for instance, they came to you as a second grader last year, were here for 2 months, left, came back as third graders, left, and have returned, you can add up all that time and say that is less than 12 months. Please keep in mind, if a student comes from another state, that does not count for recently arrived ELA, although it may seem like a foreign country. So that's condition number one, the amount of time spent in the United States. Second condition is, what is their DPI language level? They must be either a level 1 or a level 2. They have to meet both of those conditions, time in the country, language proficiency level. If they meet both of them, then they are exempted from doing the English language arts component. So those are the reasons why a student is not tested. So we will be asking for this later on, and we'll be contacting you as we get closer to the end of the test. All right, so I'm going to just move out of here, and then we'll do one more thing while we're into the DRC eDirect. I'm going to go again to all applications. This time I'm going to go to reports. So I'm going to take a look at a way of managing or understanding how we're doing while the test window is open. I'm going to look at status reports. No, I'm not. I'm going to, I'll get this right. Sorry. And no, I'm not going to do that either. That's another report. So, looking for the, I'm sorry, I thought I can't see everything over here. So there is a look, I'll just have to take you through the PowerPoint. I apologize. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. There is under student, well, maybe that, had I just paid attention to that, I could have gone in. So let me jump back here. Under student management, sorry. Under student management, we should be able to see if everything works out, student status dashboard. There we go. Apologize for it taking me so long. Student status dashboard. You'll need to put in your site name. So I'm going to, again, depend on my friends at Alice, and it'll pull up a site, Alice Elementary at Madison Metropolitan. We'll click on that for the spring 2018 assessment, and we'll get a dashboard. You'll notice that the dashboard is all red right now, which is expected, because that indicates that these are students who have not started. Frank Alice Elementary School has 1,394 expected tests spread out over 3 different grades. You can see that none of the grades have started. Also spread out over 4 content areas. We have more students taking English language arts than mathematics, or there are actually more sessions here. Notice that since 4th grade takes science and social studies, they're equivalent. They're the same number of students taking those. And you can see over here the different grades in the content areas. Once testing begins, you will be able to monitor how you're doing as the more and more students test. This will change to green. It will show you students who have tests in progress, so that, end of the day, if you have students that have tests in progress, that means hopefully that they have paused and exited. At the bottom of this, you will also see that you have a list of all the students and all the test sessions. So here's our 3rd grade students, what their status is. All of this can be exported to an Excel CSV file. So you can kind of keep tabs on things, and you'll see start time and end time, how long they took, whether or not they're completed, etc. So you get a lot of information from the student data status dashboard. You'll also be able to click on this little icon to give you just information about this particular status menu. So if I do that, it'll go from a donut to a graph back and forth. Okay, so apologize for taking me a little while to get through that, but again, managing students, student dashboard. So let's go back to the PowerPoint, and we'll kind of finish this up. So Monitoring status, I know everybody will be taking a look at this. I will be sharing information with you as we get closer and closer to the end. The student status dashboards. Now, proctor security. This particular agreement is for those people who will be proctoring the assessment itself. So typically classroom teachers, anybody else in a supporting role who's in the classroom. They will need to sign this. This is an agreement for confidentiality so that you're not going to be sharing the test materials. You're not going to be taking photographs. You're not posting it online. This is a secure test, etc. So you're agreeing to this. One of the lines also says, hang on just a second. Sorry, I'm trying to, all right. Oh, sorry, I will get back. I will make sure I'm sharing the right screen. I apologize. Okay, hopefully we're all online now. Is that any better? Okay. All right, good. So let me go back to the security agreement. This again is something that you will need to have everyone who is proctoring the test or administering the test sign. It's important that they do that. There is a line, I understand, I've read the test security manual. On our website, we do have the test security manual. You can share that with people. There is a short video. In fact, I know I'm going to go back and go back to our website and share that. So let's go back to Wisconsin Forward test. Let me just show you on the website where that's at. This is the forward coordinator information. Here are the security documents. So here's the proctor agreement. Here is the DPI security training video. This video is not very long, but it does go through and take you through all of the components that you will need to understand the test security. Here's the Wisconsin Test Security Manual. Everything is here. So if a staff member would like to read that, please offer that to them. The proctors, the test administrators, need to sign and date this and return it to you, the building coordinator. School assessment coordinators, that's you, need to sign a similar document and send that to me. I have a document that's very similar to this that I sign and send to the state. So I'm attesting to the fact that everyone who is giving the test has signed this. Every school coordinator has signed it. And so we'll just make sure that we're all good. Again, proctors to you. You send one to me. I send one to the state. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint now. I think this is the end of the forward session. So I'll just kind of pause here and we'll take a look if there are any questions. When do they need to be signed by and sent in? Prior to test taking. So if you would get them done before spring break, that's great. If you are testing next week, please get them to me, collect them. Yours should be done as soon as possible. You should get them prior to testing. So hopefully that covers everything. Any other questions? I'll kind of monitor the chat for a moment. All right. Yes, please just hold on to the ones from the staff members. So if they sign it and give it to you, just hold on to them. Once we're through the testing season, if there are no questions raised regarding confidentiality, then we can shred those. Theoretically, you hold them for a year. I will hold yours for a year. So that's what we're doing. All right, let's move on. If you have more questions, please don't hesitate to email or give us a call. So the next topic is Spring Map. because we can't let the testing season go by. Please, please, please be careful with scheduling spring map. If you are testing your sixth graders at the beginning of forward window and then seventh and eighth, for example, don't turn around and reverse the schedule going eighth, seventh, sixth. So keep that in mind. You want to give students as much of a mental break as possible as far as testing. Also, we like to have some instruction take place. So please don't test grade levels in classrooms back to back on the forward test and then followed by the MAP test in the spring. A reminder that both reading and mathematics are required of students 3 through 8 in the spring, and that our testing window is April 23rd through May 18th. This is an overlap of about a week with the forward exam. Just so you're aware of that, I understand. We need to finish this because the demand for MAP data by teachers doing SLOs, by buildings taking a look at SIP plans, by the senior leadership team looking at school data is pretty, it's pretty high. The demand is pretty high. So in order to ensure that we get data in the dashboard at around May 28th, this is the 10, we need 10 days in order to get that to happen. On Friday, May 18th, we'll close the window at 4 o'clock. Saturday, May 19th, I will get up and order the test the first thing I do in the morning. The test will arrive by Sunday, May 20th, and the 21st of May, it will be back in the hands of the data team, cleaning, putting it into IC, and from there into dashboard. Hopefully it'll get there sooner than the 28th, but that's what we're taking a look at. All right. Also, please note, a text-to-speech option was mentioned at the last meeting last month for MAP, so they've added things. The text-to-speech option is for students who have IEPs that require the test to be read to them. It will only be read in English, as that's the only language of the test. It is not for struggling readers. Unlike the forward, which allows us that flexibility, MAP does not allow us that flexibility. So if a student has in their IEP that the test should be read to them, one option is to have someone physically read that to them. They could also then have the text-to-speech option. We're working on documentation for that and how exactly that happens. There will be a guide document available right after spring break. You'll be sent a notification when that happens. What you see in front of you on the screen is what the toolbar will look like, so it will look a little different. You'll see that in one portion there's the highlighter, the eraser, the calculator. The text-to-speech will allow the students to change the volume and control the on-off for this individually. So there will be brand new test warm-ups instead of the test practice tests, excuse me, in place of the warm-ups on the start screen that will have this new text-to-speech capability built into it. So students who need this should absolutely practice this ahead of time. My guess is that it's not going to require a great deal of effort, but it does help to know where things are at. Then they can make a decision about if it's going to work for them. All right, let's continue. Elementary schools, you have Spring PALS coming up. PALS in the spring is the same test window for all students for four-year-old kindergarten through second grade. There are no exemptions. There are no, we had for 1 year, if you reached benchmark or high a benchmark, you were through testing in second grade. We're not doing that. It's just everyone will do this particular assessment in the spring. The window, again, April 23rd through May 25th, so it starts the same time as MAP, extends a little bit longer. You have until June 8th to upload all the scores into the PALS website. If there are issues or questions about PALS, please let me know. But one thing that's very important is that prior to the 23rd of April, it would really be helpful if your staff took a look at their roster, and if there are changes that need to be made, that they notify us as soon as possible. Springtime has a bumper crop of assessments, and we find ourselves, Sarah and I find ourselves, number one, being pulled in all different directions, but number two, literally out of the building providing assessments. So the 2 weeks in May, first full 2 weeks in May, are advanced placement testing. We spend many hours at the Alliant Energy Center, and web email access is not always great. So we will absolutely try and remain in contact with you during that time. But let me give you my cell phone number once again, in case something comes up and you can't reach us by email. It's 608-566-5490. So please don't hesitate to call if you have any questions. And we're going to wind up today by just saying, please contact us again. We want to make sure that you have a successful assessment season, and that you're able to connect with us at any time that you have questions. We want to make sure they get answered. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. We're going to have this webinar posted in the very near future, by tomorrow morning at the latest, and hope you have a good evening.